welcome. I'm the Deadwood Jedi. This is another Raid Shadow Legends video. It is sponsored today, so I want to talk about that really quickly. Arc Legends is a mobile strategy RPG game that's currently in beta. So you can sign up early now through the pre-registration website linked in the pinned comment and description of this video. The story of Arc Legends follows the journey of Alex, who's suffering from amnesia. And so as you travel along trying to rediscover his memories, you begin to uncover this vast conspiracy by an organization named Arquette. And so Alex, as he travels along trying to regain his memories, he's also trying to stop this vast conspiracy. Of course, Alex doesn't have to do it alone. Along the way, you're going to uncover many of the 60+ heroes and have them join your adventuring party because, of course, enemies will stand in your way. And a big part of the fun is strategizing your way to victory. Each hero has their own unique role that they play, whether that's an assassin, fighter, mage, marksman, defender, support champion. And so making sure to choose which champions to bring in, which roles they're going to play, not to mention where you place them on the battlefield can have a huge impact on the result. On top of that, they each have their own unique skills and abilities. And so you not only have to choose which skill to use, but when to use them. And that can really completely alter the result of a fight. The gameplay is easy but challenging, and I think you'll have a fun time playing. So go ahead and sign up for pre-registration using the link in the pinned comment and description of this video down below. So guys, today's video, we are going to be looking at Nika's account. Nika, I don't know, but came to me asking for a little bit of help. Actually, Nika's friend, GravP, came to me asking if I would take a look at this account, and GravP's been very generous over the years that I've known him. So I decided to take a look and rework this clan boss team. Now, it's doing about 3 keys on Ultra Nightmare before. And so I said, well, let's look at it, see if we can't bump that up a bit. And lo and behold, there's a couple Maneaters on this account. But the problem with this account, we didn't have a ton of silver, and we had plenty of gear, but hardly any of it was rolled. And when you have gear and you don't roll it, it's pretty much useless for you guys, unfortunately. So one of the things you want to try to keep up with as much as possible is rolling your gear as you get it. Even if it's only like, you know, rolling it to 4, rolling it to 8, so you have an idea of what the substats are actually going to be for that piece. And then you can better judge which ones you actually want to roll all the way. Now, I understand too, not everybody spends money on this game. You don't always have enough silver, so that totally makes sense. And in the progression of the game, I went through this myself, as did everybody else. It is very difficult. I spent almost the first year playing this game completely free to play, so I understand, at least to some level, the limitations when it comes to gear, when it comes to silver, rolling your pieces and artifacts and stuff like that. So it's not a problem necessarily when I find accounts like this that have plenty of champions, but maybe they're not all leveled up, maybe they're not all booked, the gear isn't fully rolled. That always proves a little bit difficult. But with a lot of the teams that we have now for Clan Boss, these unkillable teams, even the traditional teams going at 2-1 ratio, you don't always need killer gear to get killer results. It's amazing what you can do just by lasting 50 turns and putting up debuffs. That's really all you need. So I thought I'd do a quick little review. This is going to be a double Maneater team, an easy double Maneater team. I've done lots of videos on this. I've done lots of builds on this, but it's always good to kind of touch back onto these teams because this is one of the easiest teams to build, one of the most well-used and well-liked teams that people use across the game. And part of the reason is you can use it on Ultra Nightmare, you can use it on Nightmare, you can use it on Brutal, and you don't have to change any of the gear. It takes a few turns to set up, but outside of that, it's pretty easy. Now, one of the things I haven't done is talk about this team since we've had skill priorities, and I don't think I've really ever showed this team with champions in kind of like, subpar gear. So I'm going to show that to you guys. And if you're looking at the title of this, obviously, Vizier is going to be an integral part of this team because honestly, these are the types of teams where Vizier will just absolutely wreck shop for you guys. He's so very good. So let's first look at the calculator so we can actually see how the turn order is supposed to go, why I have certain champions at certain speeds, how I'm setting them up to prioritize certain skills, and then after that we'll do the run and show the champions at the very end. So if you're not interested in how I built these champions, that's fine. You don't have to watch the whole thing through, but we'll have that all set up for you guys. So let's go ahead and look at the calculator really quick. All right, so this is the team in the calculator. I have it set up for Ultra Nightmare right now. We have Martyr as our lead, and Martyr's a great champion because she has a really nice defensive aura and brings us counterattack, which is great, not to mention decreased defense on the A1. It's a really strong champion, especially for these unkillable teams. Then I'm going to bring in Rosin. Now, Rosin is not my first choice, which is kind of surprising for myself that I'm even choosing Rosin. But part of the reason I am is because the champion I'd like to bring in here would be a perfect fit is Geomancer. And unfortunately, Geomancer's still level 50, not ascended, and we ran out of books trying to book the Maneater, so wasn't really a viable option at this point. But it's definitely one of those things where you can constantly improve and change this team because you have 3 DPS. You can really mix and match and find a combination that works for you. You can even use champions like Turvold and Lord Shazar if you wanted to in a team like this. So it's a very easy team kind of to build. Now, you'll notice I have Martyr at 173 speed. This is going to be important. Not the speed specifically, but the fact that she's the second slowest champion. Like I said, I have Rosin at 168 speed. I have Vizier at 175 speed. Vizier is going to be the fastest of the DPS. And then we also have Maneater. One at 219. These are really the minimum speeds. It's the true speed you got to worry about, right? 218.75. That is the lowest speed you can have for this fast Maneater. And then we have just about, it's like 218.58, I think is the number, but it's right there on that edge. And then the last Maneater is 213.75. This is the absolute slowest for this second Maneater. Now, different speeds will work if you're trying to just do Ultra Nightmare, just do Nightmare, just do Brutal. There's a much wider range. But when you want to do all of those different difficulties together, that's why the speeds are so specific. And we're looking at the true speed down here, not the displayed speed, right? But the true speed, which changes based off the speed sets, based off lore of steel. Those things will change the true speed. And so those are the numbers we really need to focus in on, right? The slowest for the DPS, we have to have 2 of them between 173 and 178, and I do. And then we have to have one of them at 168, and Rosin's really kind of on that cusp there. There's a little bit of range in there, but it's a very tight range on that slow champion. So it's going to work with what we have here right now. Now, the thing I wanted to point out really quick is the turn order. Now, one of the things you're going to notice here, I have Martyr putting the counterattack up right here before the AoEs, right? Every single time. So part of the reason why I have Martyr at the speed I do is because at that speed, Martyr will go last in the turn order. That'll mean that we have counterattack for the majority of our champions for both AoEs. Now, the Maneaters take double turns, so one of them's always going to be missing at least one counterattack, but that's the only person. And the big thing is those, it's not the Maneaters that we're worried about, it's the DPS champions. And so by putting Martyr in this spot, we do have counterattack for the entire fight, which is really, really strong. The other thing we want to consider, Rosin, right, 168 speed, is going to go first in the turn order. Now, that might not be a big deal in this, right? Rosin just needs to land decreased defense and weaken once, and then Vizier is going to extend everything. But if you have a champion that does, if we don't have a Vizier on our team, right, where the debuffs are falling off, this is the spot where you want that champion that places decreased defense and weaken for you, because once that's placed, everybody that goes after that is going to do more damage. If I had that person, Rosin, let's say, doing decreased defense and weaken in the last spot, well, then everybody taking the turn before them doesn't get the benefits of those debuffs. It's much less productive for us. So turn order really matters. Figuring out which champion you put at what speed will really have an impact. Now, Vizier obviously is going to extend all the debuffs. So normally, I'd love to have Vizier go last in this comp. If I didn't have a Martyr giving us counterattack, that's exactly where I would put Vizier. That way we land all the debuffs, and then Vizier extends them instead of waiting for the clan boss to take a turn and Vizier maybe not extending it and those debuffs falling off and having to place them again and again, yada, 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 right? Obviously, with the setup of this, the first 3 turns, Rosin actually goes after everybody else. So we're not going to get those extensions right away with Rosin and Vizier, but they swap right here on turn 5. You can see right over my head, all of a sudden now Rosin's going first, Vizier's going next to last, and it's because Rosin skips that turn here. This is why when he goes at 168 speed, what ends up happening, he skips a turn and everything kind of falls in sync then. Look at turn 6 here. So turn 6, this is when this team falls in sync. You have Maneater going last right here, but taking a double turn. So they go first, and then last. And on that turn that Maneater goes first and last, that's the turn where we want that Unkillable ability. And you'll see the other Maneater is doing the same thing 2 turns later. Goes first and last, and then places that Unkillable ability, right? And so they're going to alternate. Basically, every other turn, each one Maneater is going to take a double turn. And on that last attack, they're going to place the Unkillable ability. And it's important it's on that last attack, because then we all have Unkillable ability for the next turn, and it lasts into the following turn, where that's when it falls off, and that's when the other Maneater is going to replace that buff. Basically, alternating Unkillable abilities. One puts it up, it lasts for a turn, and then it falls off, and the other one puts it up, and it lasts for a turn. And we do that throughout the course of the fight, and it lets us survive for 50 turns. This is an incredibly good team. Honestly, this is one of the best Unkillable teams you can make. It's very simple. The speeds are low. You notice all our DPS are under 178 speed. Our Maneaters aren't even 220 speed. So this is extremely attainable. The only negative is it takes a little bit of setup. To get set up and stay affinity friendly, it does take a little bit of work. First off, you'll see up here on turn 2, we have that Unkillable ability. We actually, if we want to stay affinity friendly, would want to use that 1 turn earlier on turn count 1 here. But by doing that, all we'd have to do is remember here on turn 6, we'd have to just delay that ability 1 turn, right? Because we'd use this 1 turn earlier, the Unkillable skill would come up 1 turn earlier as well. We obviously want to use it on the second attack here on turn 6. So we just have to manually delay that 1 turn. And if we do that, at that point, we can click auto. So I do have the team set up here in the team setup, right, with the skills. Basically, I'm going to want, everybody should be just fine. Rosin, I'm actually going to turn off all of their skills, right? The only thing we really want Rosin for is that A1, so he gets that triple attack over and over and over again. We need to land this A2 first. So if I have to, I will manual, because we're manualing anyway in the beginning, I will manual a little bit to make sure we get that A2 on. But the rest of the fight, we just want this A1 so we can get those Giant Slayer procs. He has a triple attack. It's really strong. Vizier, similar things, right? We're going to turn off his A2. We're going to turn off his A3 and just use his A1 skill so we constantly extend those debuffs. The A2 and the A3 do good damage. It's not like it's a bad thing to keep those on, but they bring debuffs we don't want, and I'd rather auto sooner so I don't have to put in as much time physically manualing this run. And those are really the only adjustments we need to make. Everybody else uses their skills on auto. Marta's going to prioritize that counterattack anyway. I don't have to mess with that. And so we can just kind of get in here and get set up. And it's, you know, like I said, it's not that hard to set up. It doesn't take a lot of time. This team actually didn't even take me a very long time to build because it is so simple. You just really need to get to those speeds, and that's pretty much it. Setting it up is easy, right? We're just going to A1. That was my fast Maneater. A1, this is my slow Maneater, and you have 2 of them, right? And just understanding when you're going to use their skills is all that you need to do. Now, obviously, we don't have any debuffs up, so with Vizier, we just need an A1, whatnot. Martyr, we're just going to go ahead and A1 as well. We need to wait for the counterattack because we need that to come up at the right time. And then Rosin, go ahead and place that decreased defense and weaken, right? Okay, now, here's the thing. Between the AoEs is when we need to, for these first 2 turns, these first 2 cycles, that's when we need to place the block debuffs and Unkillable ability with the Maneaters, right? So this first time on turn count 1, between the AoEs, this is when we're going to use the Unkillable ability from the from the fast Maneater, the first one. Now, obviously, it doesn't really matter unless you're facing Spirit Affinity, but I always like to just kind of show you guys exactly how this works. So we're going to place this here between the AoEs. That's how you know that's the right time. Get that first one going there. And you see, we block all the debuffs. There's no affinity debuffs on any of our champions here, right? We're good to go now. We're going to get another attack here from Martyr. Great. And here we go. Just kind of A1. We just need to kind of keep moving through. And yes, we will have block debuffs on most of our champions. Even if it's... But the great part about this is if you do it this way, it doesn't even matter if that Maneater took the stun. It won't matter because he hasn't used his Unkillable ability yet, and so we're fine. If it hits the other Maneater, that's okay too, because he has to delay 1 turn later anyway. Not to mention, he has block debuff, so he's not going to get stunned anyhow. And so now here's after the stun, we put up the counterattack, and I could, as soon as we're almost ready to click auto. We're not quite there, but we're pretty close. And so, yeah, we're all set up here, right? Now, it's between the AoEs again, right? This is a time where, like I said, we want to block the debuffs between the AoEs. So we already used the Fast Maneater's Unkillable ability. Now we're going to use the Slow Maneater's Unkillable ability. And that's pretty much how you set this team up, how you make it work. Here we go. Slow Maneater has the Unkillable ability. Boom. Good to go. And I can pretty much, I could click auto right now. But the thing is, I need to remember at the top of turn 6, after the stun, that Fast Maneater, we need to make sure we delay his Unkillable ability by 1 turn. That's going to be really important. So I'm going to continue manualing till I get to that point, and then we'll be good to go. Now, you guys might notice I kind of click A1. I'm never that, you know, you can maximize the damage here by really making sure that you only click the A2 every time with the Maneater. I just haven't done that yet. And so Martyr took the stun right there. Not ideal. And because of that, we're actually going to be thrown off it. So I need to manual another cycle to make sure that the Martyr's counterattack comes up at the right time. So I'll talk about that in a second here. Now, you can see, top of turn 6, Maneater's first to go. We have that Unkillable ability available. We don't want to use it yet. We're going to wait 1 turn. Now we can click auto. Now we can click auto and everything's going to work just fine. Now, the one thing I'm going to want to do, I was just talking about how Martyr took the stun. That's going to delay her skills by 1 turn. That's a bad thing for us. We want that counterattack coming up before the AoEs, not before the stun. We don't care about the stun counterattack, right? So one of the things I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to interrupt a little bit, manual it a little bit, and make sure that Martyr doesn't use that counterattack ability till after this next stun. It's going to hurt our damage, for sure, but that's how I would do it. Now, going future, if this was a team I was running consistently, one of the things I would make sure to do, see again, we're gonna use the A1 one more time, and now we can click auto, won't get that counterattack going from here on out. If I was running this team personally, and one of the things I would do would be, I would look at Martyr's skills and go, okay, I know we're gonna get delayed 1 turn, especially when we face, blue affinity, right? That's really the one we have to worry about. Green affinity, it's going to target, Rosin or Vizier. Red affinity, it's probably going to, it's definitely not, it might target, I guess red affinity, it won't target Martyr for sure. It'll probably target Rosin or Vizier or maybe one of the Maneaters, so I wouldn't have to worry about that. But for blue affinity, I know I'm going to take that 1 stun. So what I would do is I would make sure to use Martyr's skill 1 turn earlier, because I know she's going to get 1 turn delayed later, and so that kind of balances it out. And that way I can just click auto earlier. I really like clicking auto. I don't know, it makes it a lot easier. Anyway, this is the team. You can see we're about a little more than 500,000 damage per turn. You're going to see this really jump up as we start getting the counterattacks every time. We have a full debuff bar up there, and we start getting some big attacks. Now, you'll notice we have those mini poisons. I do have Rosin in a toxic set. Makes a big difference if you can do that, if you don't bring a poisoner in, and you don't need a poisoner with a team like this, because we're going 50 turns. The little toxic poisons can do really good damage, and good raw damage will generally outstrip poisons over time. Anyway, let's jump ahead toward the end of the run, and you guys enjoy the music, and we'll come back right after. 40 million is not too bad. Not too bad at all. You can see obviously Rosin putting up the most damage. He gets all the poison damage as well from the toxic set, so that's going to really up his numbers there. But you can see Vizier did 9 million damage. That's the power of Giant Slayer. Honestly, like that's what that is. I mean, I haven't built pretty well, but like that's a huge part of it. You can see also there's a huge difference in the Maneater damage. My guess is I think they both have the proper masteries. I think that really has to do with the builds and the way I have them built. I think one is just built more attack heavy than the other one. So you can see like there is plenty of potential here. It's an easy 2-key Ultra Nightmare team, even without crazy gear and builds. And obviously we have good champions, but you know, it's not, well, there's no Draco. I'll put it that way. There's definitely options for how to do this. And you know, Vizier just really makes this whole thing shine. But let's look at the champions real quick and I can show you the builds. So let's talk really quick. We'll start off with Vizier here as I show you guys the builds. One of the things we want to be kind of focused on here, you can see I have them built with some attack, not even quite 100% crit rate, and decent crit damage. This is not a crazy build here. And as we look, I'm going to show you really quickly the gear that we have on this account. Look at how much of it is unrolled. If it's not rolled, I can't use it. It really becomes difficult, and then I'm limited by the amount of silver we have to even figure out what pieces to roll. But we don't have, I mean, I would say easily less than half of it is even rolled. So the potential for this team is much higher than what we have, but we can't even realize it because we don't know what gear is rolled and available and even good for us. So these are like little things that we want to keep in mind. Now, one of the reasons why you see I have them coming down to Giant Slayer here. One of the reasons why Vizier is so great is those Giant Slayer procs, right? Getting those, you know, this is why Geomancer is really good, why Brogni is really good, is because they have passive abilities that proc Giant Slayer, you know, debuffs, or Giant Slayer damage. You know, those are like 67,000 every single time. Well, Vizier with his triple attack on the A1, he's getting a lot of those extra procs, which is why Giant Slayer is so much stronger than War Master when you can put it up. So if you figure he's doing about 20,000, 15,000 per A1 hit, you know, it's only like, you know, somewhere between like, you know, I don't know, 45 to 60,000 damage overall with his A1. But every one of those Giant Slayer procs is another 67,000, basically doubles his damage every time. And we have the potential of getting 3 of those every attack. So you can see how it can be really strong. And this is one of the reasons why Rosin is such a powerful damage dealer in this game. You notice I don't even have his crit damage amulet rolled up. I don't have his boots rolled up. There's plenty of room here for these champions to improve in the, you know, the gear department in how I've built them. In fact, with Rosin, I had to put crit rate gloves on him. We didn't have the gear, especially in Toxic set, to really build him out. He doesn't have even 4,000 defense, you know, only 117 crit damage, but does a lot of damage. Now, I know a lot of it came from the Toxic set, but also he also has a triple attack on his A1, and so Giant Slayer becomes massive for him. Now, you'll notice I have Rosin in the defensive set, and I have that for most champions, because typically with this type of team, the double Maneater team, defensive set is the way to go. You can heal up by taking Life Drinker on that. Taking Life Drinker is really strong, and that can heal you up, and then you're able to get free counterattacks every time. But we have Martyr, so we don't necessarily need it. We could go down the support tree. But with Vizier, we don't need that as well, right? So I have Vizier in the support tree just for the extra accuracy, for the lore steal, so we can get a little bit more speed and stats, but, you know, it's not strictly necessary. Obviously, the other champion we have is we're going to bring in Martyr here. And Martyr is just an absolute beast. Martyr hits extremely hard. This originally wasn't built with any crit rate or damage. Well, we changed that, and Martyr can smack, so that's definitely something we want to do. Now, I have Martyr built with accuracy here. We don't really need that because we have Rosin, because we have Vizier. We could build Martyr with absolutely no accuracy, just pump the defense, pump the crit damage and crit rate, and just call it a day there. But I like the ability to land that decreased defense. I think when we replace Rosin with the Geomancer, and that's going to really skyrocket our damage up. Geomancer brings weaken, but not decreased defense, so this will be a good combination between the two of them. Between them, we'll have all the debuffs that we need, especially if we put Geomancer or one of the Maneaters in a Toxic set. I think that'll be really nice for us. And then we come down to the last two, the Maneaters, right? obviously, my main focus was getting him on speed. So we got 100% crit rate, which is something we wanted, but you can see there's no attack on this Maneater. It's not built for damage. And I think changing that up, putting attack chest on, I think we have an HP chest right now, switching that up, giving him crit damage with that amulet rolled can make an actual really big difference as far as the damage output that we'll get from him. You notice one was doing about 4 million damage, the other one did about 1 million damage. So there's a major difference there. This Maneater, right? Again, not a lot of crit rate, not a lot of attack, not even 100% crit rate, and this is probably the one that was doing less damage, and not a ton of crit damage. But, you know, getting the speeds is the key. That's the most important thing. And so, you know, the next level with this is optimizing the build, right? Optimizing the damage, optimizing everything we can get from that is kind of the key. And you can see this one doesn't have mastery, so that becomes a big part of that as well, right? I mean, I was talking about how good Giant Slayer is versus War Master. Well, having either of them is a major difference. The other Maneater did about 4 million damage. This one did about 1 million damage. The only difference that I can see right now is that War Master proc, that War Master ability there, the War Master mastery. It's really called War Master and it's a mastery. That's weird. Anyway, yeah, it's the War Master mastery. That is the only difference between them, and that's about 3 million damage just for Maneater. Imagine when we can actually build crit rate and crit damage on these guys. It can make a big difference, or build attack. I guess we have crit rate. But yeah, that's the team. Those are the champions we were brought in. I absolutely love Vizier. Now, Vizier has some limitations, right? He's really good for unkillable teams like this, but he doesn't do anything on his own. He doesn't bring a lot of debuffs on his own. There's not really any point to extending if you're not bringing the things that you need to extend onto the team. So he's not great for top end Ultra Nightmare clan boss teams, but for middle teams like this one, like the double Maneater, where you're doing 2 key damage, and you know he can actually work really well and make you a 1 key team. This build, this team itself could do 1 key damage if you have the right gear on it. And he's really good in this type of team. He can make a champion like Geomancer, like Martyr, really shine, but he's not going to be able to do that on his own. So he has some limitations to his skills, but if you have a champion like him, you already know he's really good for clan boss, because you never have to worry about your debuffs falling off, and that's huge. So anyway, that's the build, that's the team. Hopefully you guys had a good time today and enjoyed this, and that's all we got. So, you know, like, subscribe. Until next we meet, I'm the Deadwood Jedi.